Hey guys, it's me, Mr. 250, and welcome back to Phoenix Wright, Ace Attorney Justice for All. I think we finally gathered enough information last time that we're going to be starting the trial. It looks like that's what this one says, trial. And while we're apparently supposed to figure it out in one go, I don't really think that's like totally realistic, so maybe he'll be like, well, I'm going to give you an extension, but you better solve it the next day, or something. So let's get started. Oh yeah, there's Edgeworth too, who I think might be helping us? I'm not entirely sure. Adrian did it? That's what it looks like. Dude, no way! That woman couldn't do anything like that. In court today, there'll be a mountain of evidence that will implicate you. A mountain of evidence? I'm certain there's someone out there trying very hard to pin this whole thing on you. Please, Mr. Lawyer, dude, like I said yesterday, I'm refreshing like a spring breeze, alright? What does that mean? I can't let any sort of scandal ruin that. I understand. Well, it's almost time. Oh, I thought it was going to be Edgeworth. Mia, we must get a complete acquittal today. I know, but I can't focus on Mia's situation right now. Or Pearl's either. No matter what, I have to focus on winning this case by the end of the day. Indeed. Well, let's get going. It's him. This is right. No, this is wrong. Good morning, this is it, Mr. Attorney. The day of the trial. Maya, she's unharmed, right? Well, when I checked on her earlier this morning, she seemed a bit, how shall we say, tired. Don't worry, people don't die that easily. Besides, what you really should be concentrating on is winning today's trial. For my sake as well as yours, you must win today's trial. Which is why I sent you a little present this morning. Present? What in the world would you want to give me? You'll figure it out once the trial starts. And even if you don't like my gift, I expect you to graciously accept it and win the day's contest. If you please. Wait. I like how I managed to forget his voice like 3 times and make up a completely different voice each time, I'm pretty sure. The kidnapper sent me a present? Mr. Lawyer, dude? Who was that? No one. It has nothing to do with you, so forget you heard anything. Dude, did your nose just get longer? Perhaps it has. Court is now in session for the trial of man in guard. Are the prosecution and defense ready? The defense is ready, Your Honor. Where are they? I say, Mr. Wright, what happened to Miss Von Karma? I don't know, Your Honor. Why are you getting mad at me? Your Honor! Please be quiet, bailiff. Court is in session. You must tell me something. Please keep it brief. Now then, what is it? Prosecutor Von Karma is... This morning, Miss Von Karma was shot by an unknown gunman. What? Shot? So if she's dead, do I, like, automatically win? Somehow. I think this is the present that man was talking about. His present? Miss Von Karma is one of the top prosecutors in the country at the moment. If she were to disappear, it would be to your advantage. This is totally insane. Alright, well, since there's no prosecutor, Mr. Phoenix Wright, you're going to have to play both the defense and the prosecution. And figure out a way to not implicate yourself. Miss Von Karma? Is she alright? I don't have that answer. I've just been sitting here. She's alive and in stable condition. That's good. Pooh. I thought he'd show up. Your Honor, due to the circumstances, Miss Francesca von Karma cannot appear in court today. I, Miles Edgeworth, will be taking her place. The prosecution is ready, naturally. Thought you were supposed to be helping us, Edgeworth. Scumbag. Miss von Karma was shot in her right shoulder and is currently undergoing surgery. Luckily, I have looked this case over and been familiar with the details. The prosecution seeks to prove the guilt of Mr. Matt Ingard. The court acknowledges the prosecution. Is this legal? Are you allowed to just, sub in? Well, since she's incapacitated and unable to do her job, I'm gonna do it. Right. I finally found the answer I was struggling for on my long journey this past year. By the time this case comes to an end, you too will know the answer. Now then, the prosecution would like to call its first witness. Please bring Detective Gumshoe to the witness stand. Witness, your name and occupation. My name's Dick Gumshoe, sir. I'm a detective down at the precinct. For now? For now? After this trial's over, supposed to turn in my badge, sir. Detective Gumshoe. The prosecution has no need for a depressed witness. Lift your head up and face forward like a proud officer, Detective Dick Gumshoe. Yes, sir. Now, let's have your testimony. If we want to explore the various facets of this case, we must start with that. Get ready, Phoenix. This is going to be one very rough fight. Yeah, it would have to be with Edgeworth as my opponent. The answer he was struggling for. Interesting. Show me this answer you finally found, Edgeworth. Bare facts of the case. This murder happened after the Hero of Heroes Award ceremony, sir. The victim, Juan Carita, was found dead in his hotel room. After looking into the cause of death, we believe he was definitely murdered, sir. At first, we thought there was something suspicious about the empty guitar case. However, we later found out that the guitar case had nothing to do with the murder. Are you sure about that? Because I feel like it does. After the award ceremony ended, the victim was alone in his room? Yes, sir. Both the victim and defendant went alone to their room, sir. Yes. I see. Mr. Wright, you may begin your cross-examination. Alright. So yeah, I'm pretty sure the case has something to do with the murder. This murder happened after the Hero of Heroes Award ceremony, sir. Would you please give us a brief timeline of what happened after the ceremony? Okay, pal. The ceremony started at 6 p.m. It ended around 8 p.m., and there was a short break. The special post-ceremony show was supposed to start in the lobby 30 minutes later. And that's when the victim's body was found, correct? Which is to say, the murder occurred during that 30-minute break period. Please continue with your testimony, Detective. The victim, Juan Carita, was found dead in his hotel room. The person who discovered the victim's body was Adrian Andrews, correct? Yeah. Who is this Adrian Andrews you're talking? Voice dying, hold on. The voice cracks. She's the defendant, not Ingard's manager. She's a real pretty lady, sir. Oh, so she's a pretty lady. I wonder if she will grace us with her presence. When the post-ceremony show was about to start, She went to get Mr. Ingard. After visiting his room, she went to the victim's room next to get him for the show, sir. I see! And that's when she found the victim's body. After looking into the cause of death, we believe he was definitely murdered, sir. The cause of death? Wasn't that because Mr. Kurita was stabbed in the chest? Only a careless amateur would believe something so brainless as that, pal. Take a good hard look at the crime photo. Now, a real pro's attention would be drawn here to this bandana. Banana. His bandana, sir. That's the thing wrapped tightly around his neck, sir. Oh, yes, I see. His banana-scented bandana. Then, what about the knife? That was also a bandana. It seems to have been struck in the victim's chest on purpose after his death. We have a crafty murderer on our hands here. Autopsy report. At first, we thought there was something suspicious about the empty guitar case. And why did you think that? Because it was empty, pal. The Jammin' Ninja doesn't go anywhere without his bright red guitar. And we couldn't find it anywhere at the scene of the crime. Oh, then how about this theory? A fan really wanted the guitar and did the crime to get it. How's that? But that's just a theory. A Jammin' Ninja theory! We thought of that too, but... The only fingerprints on the guitar case were the victims. Only the victims? Huh. I see. Oh, so much for my theory then. Guitar case! However, we later found out that the guitar case had nothing to do with the murder. What convinced you it had nothing to do with the case? The guitar wasn't at the Gatewater Hotel that night. Well then, where was it? The bright red guitar was eventually found at the TV studio. The victim, Juan Kurita, had apparently only taken the case with him, sir. So you mean he forgot to put the guitar inside the case? Yes, sir. Even when he was on stage for the ceremony, he didn't have his guitar. So that guitar case was empty, even before he got to the hotel. Yeah, that's right. So it really had nothing to do with the case after all. I believe that is enough. First, the victim was choked to death with his bandana. Then, after the victim was dead, the killer deliberately stabbed him with a knife. Which brings me to my next point. Why then did the police arrest Matt and Guard? Because there was reason enough to suspect him. Here it comes. Looks like Edgeworth's back in full swing. Very well. Detective Gumshoe, please testify about this matter. Yes, sir. I feel like I'm doing the judge voice that I've been doing wrong. But it's because the reflections in this room, I mentioned it in a different video after I took this TV off the wall. All the reflections in my room sound different, and now I feel like I can't do the voice right anymore. Matt Guard and Juan Kurita were huge rivals with each other. They each thought the other guy was in his way. That's motive enough in my book. As for evidence, there's the Jammin' Ninja's button. It was ripped off the ninja costume and was found in Mr. Ingard's Hakama. The defendant's fingerprints were also all over the knife. The defendant bought the knife for the crime, which makes this a premeditated murder. So the defendant's fingerprints were found on the knife used in the stabbing. It was sort of sticky on the handle, so the fingerprints came out pretty clearly, sir. Knife added to the court record. And there's this button. That was found in the defendant's clothes, was it? And this button is also covered in blood. Yes, and we know that the blood on it is the victim's blood, sir. What? Jammin' Ninja's button? All of this points very clearly to the defendant, doesn't it? Yes, it most certainly does, Your Honor. Ready to give in yet, right? I'll find the hole in your argument somehow. You can press as hard as you'd like. Just hurry up with your usual pointless questions. Urgh. Madden Guard and Juan Carita were huge rivals with each other. But in terms of popularity, Mr. Engard won, did he not? Yeah, but you know what's ironic, pal? Juan Carita was always one step behind Mr. Engard and everything. This year, it seemed like he'd finally caught up, ready for the big final showdown. But Mr. Carita lost the Grand Prix in the end. That's too bad. He must have been pretty downhearted after losing. So he murdered. They each thought the other guy was in his way. That's motive enough in my book. I don't know about that. Wait just 1 second here. Mr. Engard was beating Mr. Carita in the popularity polls. Well, yeah, I guess, but... Which means that in the defendant's eyes, the victim was not a rival at all. Which means he had no motive to kill at all. Yes, I quite agree. Well, detective? It's not, well... I guess if you put it that way, then yeah. The defendant would have had no motive. Objection! Objection! Detective, I'm beginning to see why you were fired. No, not you too, Mr. Edgeworth, sir. I look forward to your pension negotiations. No! Now, detective. Money's not an important thing. Let's continue with the testimony. No, not my poor pension too. Detective, if you value your money, I suggest you proceed. Yes, sir. We can talk about my pension later, sir. What about what I was saying? Hello? Anyone? As if this isn't like completely illegal just to take your witness and threaten his wages. As for evidence, there's the Jammin' Ninja's button. Do you have any proof that button belonged to the victim? Huh? What do you mean, pal? Oh, let me put it this way. I'm asking you if you have any evidence to back up your claim that this button was ripped off of the Jammin' Ninja's costume. Huh? But can't you tell just by looking at it? And the victim's blood is on it. Anyone could have smeared that blood on there afterward. Mr. Edgeworth, help me, sir. Alright, I knew it had to be this piece of evidence. Now to reel this one in. Thread. Huh? The button was attached to the costume by thread, obviously. And that thread snapped when the button was torn off. If you match up the ends of the thread on the costume with the thread on the button, it's a perfect match. Yeah, that's it. They're a perfect match, pal. That's Edgeworth for you. Never misses a beat. It was ripped off of the ninja costume and was found in Mr. Engard's Hakama. When was this button found? Pretty soon after the body was found. We rounded up everyone who knew Mr. Carita. And then we did a search on them all. That's when we found the button. So it was almost immediately after the murder. The police didn't have the free time to lollygag and play tricks unlike some people. Hey, what's he trying to say about me here? The defendant's fingerprints were also all over the knife. how were the fingerprints arranged on the knife? Huh? What do you mean, pal? By examining the fingerprints, you can determine how the defendant held the knife. For example, did he hold it normally or overhand? Oh, is that what you meant? Well, we didn't actually think of that. I can't believe the bumbling of this department. Hopeless. Were you paying attention to the testimony right? The defendant's fingerprints were all over the knife. There's no way to determine how the knife was held at the moment of the murder. So the defendant, the owner... So is the defendant the owner of the knife then? Probably. The defendant bought the knife for the crime. Now, I think this actually might be the point I'm supposed to hit on, because it says Gatewater on the knife, so he didn't buy the knife. I thought maybe it was a typo and said brought the knife, which would make sense if he brought it from his room after eating to the other room. But if it's up there, if it's actually the word bought, like he purchased the knife, well then, we can disprove that because it's the Gatewater Hotel knife. There's no way this was a premeditated murder. Even if he bought a knife, yeah. Sorry, pal, this isn't some pocket knife. It doesn't fold, so it's not great for walking around with either. Well, this isn't good. If the prosecution can prove it was a premeditated murder, we're done for. Phoenix, yes? There's something very interesting about what the detective said just now. Think carefully, before it's too late. Button covered with the victim's blood and a knife within guard's fingerprints. Be grateful. If the judge were more rash, he would have already pounded his gavel in closing. We're still in a world of trouble. Well, before any battle, you must find your enemy's weakness. So let's find the weakness in this testimony, no matter how small it may be. Okay, Phoenix? Alright. Alright, so we're gonna present the knife. And the grip Gatewater is engraved. Objection! Wait a second. What? So the basis of your argument that this was a premeditated murder is simply that my client bought a knife beforehand? That's right, pal. The defendant did not buy this knife. Huh? Take a good look at the handle of this knife, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Huh? It has a Gatewater seal. It's under the handle. Gatewater? I think I've heard that name somewhere before. That's the name of the hotel. The Gatewater Hotel. Uh-oh. The murder knife was actually property of the hotel, which means this murder was not premeditated. I mean, that doesn't mean it's not premeditated. It just means that he didn't buy a knife, honestly. Yes, that's very true. This is a very big... What is it, Mr. Edgeworth? I noticed you're laughing over there. That's kind of weird. I'm sorry, but the defense is simply too careless. What? I think whether the crime was premeditated or not has already been determined. How so? I admit this knife is hotel property. There's no one currently on the police force that's dumb enough to not realize this. But I didn't know. Oh. The question is, where did this knife come from? Why, that's obvious. It came from the victim, Mr. Corina's room. Sorry, Your Honor, but that's incorrect. The victim ate a last meal before he was murdered. With that being the case, I would like to draw the court's attention to what is on top of the table. There's a knife and a fork on the table, and everyone knows that Juan Carita never ate with 2 knives, because that would be dumb.
Then, where in the world did this knife come from?
If it pleases the court, I would like for us to recall the room of the defendant, Mr. Madden Guard. Especially what was on top of his table. There's something missing. Perhaps it is a single knife. We investigated the leftover dishes for fingerprints, and while we were investigating, we came to the conclusion that Mr. Maddenguard's knife was missing. Mr. Engard had gone to the victim's room with the knife he'd used during dinner. Why would he carry a knife on a visit? To kill, of course. Maybe he wanted to help Matt cut his own food. And with that, I believe the prosecution has proven this was a premeditated murder.
Well, you know, that sure makes a lot of sense. Amazing, Mr. Edgeworth. Absolutely brilliant. A brilliantly clear deduction.
It seems like Edgeworth had this plan from the very beginning. This must be one of those traps, and I just walked right along into it.
A murder weapon with fingerprints and a button from the victim's costume. There is quite a sizable amount of evidence here.
I can safely say that any further deliberation is a waste of your Honor's time. Although, I wouldn't mind if the defense were to present evidence not yet shown to the court. Evidence not yet shown? He means evidence that the court hasn't seen yet. In other words, new evidence.
What does the defense have to say about this, Mr. Wright?
Well, Phoenix, the judge is favoring the prosecution right now. If we answer with something wrong here, that gavel of his will be ringing out to the sound of our defeat.
Mr. Wright, do you have something important and necessary to present to this court?
Yes, I do. There's one piece of evidence that catches my attention. Something that this court is yet to see.
Mr. Wright, I will say this one more time. I do not feel this trial needs to continue at all. However, I'm giving you one chance, and only one.
What the judge is saying, right, is don't try pulling one of your usual bluffs here. If I mess this up, it's curtains for all of us.
You may now present one, and only one piece of evidence. Now then, what is this important evidence that you must show to the court?
I show them the knife that we've already talked about.